Countries around Europe tighten pandemic restrictions to try and contain the COVID-19 spread over the Christmas period.
After massing troops near Ukraine's border, Russia has now made demands of NATO that the West is never likely to agree to.
Thousands protest in the Catalan capital after a court rules that 25% of all school subjects must be taught in Spanish.
Turkey hosts a third summit with African leaders with the message that their continent must be represented at the UN Security Council.
A high death toll is feared as the central Philippines are struck by this season's most powerful typhoon.
After 2 years of closure, this park in Portugal reopened its doors on December 1st to the joy of children and their parents. Despite the surge in the number of cases, the vaccine makes this Christmas very different from 2020's. One mother said, "For us parents, it's important that the children can enjoy life, that they can leave the house, and we also end up living this magic with them." Portugal, like many European countries, believe the Omicron variant will be the dominant strain by the end of the year. Spain has begun vaccinating children in the hopes of controlling the spread of the virus to stop the overcrowding of ICUs. France is steadfast in its fight against Omicron and is confident it can ramp up vaccinations. But the government will impose restrictions ahead of the celebrations of New Year's. French Prime Minister Jean Castex said, as for large outdoor gatherings and events, especially on New Year's Eve, the local authorities will forbid gatherings which aren't declared in advance, alcohol consumption on the public highways, and will ask cities to renounce organising big outdoor gatherings. Ireland has gone one step further and has imposed an 8 p.m. closing time for pubs, restaurants and live events, as well as other indoor venues such as cinemas and theatres.
Russia has now positioned around 100,000 troops near its border with Ukraine. The big question is whether President Putin really intends to invade the country again. He's done it before. In 2014, Russia annexed Crimea in Ukraine. On Friday, Moscow made its demands to NATO clear. The alliance's infrastructure continues to move. It has to be stopped. We need to return to the positions that Russia and NATO held in 1997, when the founding act on our relations was signed. Working for NATO, Belgian warplanes were patrolling Estonia's airspace well before the troop build-up. Even so, the tension's clearly rising.
We have been clear as the United States, and just yesterday the 30 nations of the NATO alliance were clear in a statement that came out of the North Atlantic Council. We're prepared for dialogue with Russia. We've had dialogue with Russia on European security issues for the last 20 years.
Lithuania's foreign minister says he hopes the West will reject what he called Russia's threats. One could have guessed that Russia would try, by threatening Ukraine, to demand strategic concessions from NATO and the West in general. The question is whether to agree to such concessions. I hope that they will be rejected. Russia's demanding that no former Soviet state be allowed to join NATO and that the bloc's troops move away from Russia's borders. But analysts say the bloc is very unlikely to agree.
Thousands have gathered for peaceful demonstrations in the centre of Barcelona. The reason? A court decision that mandates 25% of all school subjects be taught in Spanish. The region of Catalonia has its own language called Catalan, and the majority of its over 7 million residents speak it and Spanish fluently.
The language of the country, of the Catalan country, is Catalan, not Spanish. This is a linguistic invasion.
At home we speak in Catalan. Our grandparents speak in Catalan, families speak in Catalan, and yet children are able to speak Spanish without any problem. They have access to Spanish via the internet, the TV, friends. During Franco's reign, the use of Catalan was prohibited in schools. Since his death in 1975, there has been a big comeback of the language, and it's considered a regional achievement. Many Catalans consider the court ruling an attack on their educational system and their autonomy.
At a two-day Turkey-Africa summit, which opened in Istanbul on Friday, President Erdogan addressed what he described as a great injustice. Africa represents a sixth of the world's population, but it remains unrepresented at the UN Security Council. The summit is also a business opportunity. Turkey's been deepening defence ties with African countries and has battle-tested drones to sell. Developments in recent years show all of us that allowing the UN 5-member countries to designate the whole world's destiny was a mistake. It is a great injustice that the African continent, with its population of 1.3 billion, is not represented at the UN Security Council. Turkey's footprint in Africa is growing ever bigger. In 2 decades, it has opened 30 more embassies, and its trade volume has gone up nearly 5-fold in the same length of time. Ankara has developed a military base in Somalia, and Morocco and Tunisia are believed to have taken delivery of Turkish combat drones in September. Analysts say a host of African leaders at the summit are looking to buy up military hardware at cheaper prices from Turkey and with fewer strings attached.
At least 33 people have been reported killed and many dozens more missing after a super typhoon struck the central Philippines, peaking with wind gusts of 270 kilometers per hour. The extent of the damage is proving difficult to establish as Typhoon Rai took out power stations and mobile phone networks. Authorities say many lives were saved thanks to early warning alerts, which enabled 300,000 people to evacuate to safety. The Philippines are typically hit by storms every year, but this was the most powerful of the seasons so far.
Flowers mark the scene of what Japanese police are calling a suspected arson attack in the city of Osaka that has killed 24 people. On Friday, a fire engulfed a 4th-floor mental health clinic located in the heart of the city. One woman was rescued by firefighters. 3 other people were resuscitated and remain in a serious condition. A witness described the incident saying, "I arrived here when the fire and smoke were extinguished. When I saw it, I thought a small fire broke out, but when there was an unusual number of ambulances and fire trucks, the traffic lights were turned off too. I was really surprised for a moment." Police are searching for a man in his 50s to 60s who witnesses saw carrying a paper bag that was soaked with an unidentified liquid. But officials haven't ruled out the possibility that the man may be one of the 24 people who died in the fire. A Colombian NGO has launched a project that brings disabled people on a bike ride across the city. People who would normally be unable to cycle alone were taken on a Christmas ride by a cyclist around Envigado, near Medellin. Juan Diego Alvarez, founder and director of the project, said that now people with disabilities and the elderly can enjoy the same things we do on bicycles. He was worshipped by the Romans as the god of the weak and a great protector, and now researchers have uncovered the possible location of the Hercules of Cadiz temple, a building thought lost for centuries. Scientists say they have mapped a large ancient building in the Spanish town of Sancti Petri, believed to be the prized temple. Archaeologist Milagros Alzaga Garcia said, "The documentary sources we have analysed, the archaeological information, together with the images obtained with digital models of the site, lead us to believe that it could be the mythical temple of Hercules." The temple was first mentioned in classical Greek and Latin sources, such as Strabo and Philostratus of Athens, which described the building on the dockside as a large Phoenician complex that was accessed by crossing 2 columns. And what scientists have discovered so far indicate that they have solved the long-lost archaeological mystery.